Hare Krishna, dear devotees, Dhamma Pranam, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hari Bol to all the devotees who led the chanting this morning. Vishwanath Prabhu, Pandit Shivas Prabhu, Bhuvan Prabhuji, Meenakshi Mohini, Amarish Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Okay, let's continue with our Mangalacharan prayers and then continue with reading. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshitarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktaranda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Okay, anybody would like to sing today? Our prayer of the week. Shikshashtakam Song 1 from Geetavali by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Nalin Prabhu, you want to try today? Okay. Alright, then I'll continue. And then
Prabhu, you continue.
Yeah. Okay. Pitavarana Kali Pavan Gaura Pitavarana Kali Pavan Gaura Gao Yai Chana Bhava Vibhora Gao Yai Chana Bhava Vibhora Chitta Darpana Pari Marjanakari Krishna Kirtana Jaya Chitta Bihari Hira Bhavadava Nirvapana Vritti Krishna Kirtana Jaya Klesha Nivritti Shriya Kumuda Vidhu Jyotsna Prakasha Krishna Kirtana Jaya Bhakti Vilasa Vishuddha Vidya Vadhu Jivana Rupa Krishna Kirtana Jaya Siddha Swarupa Ananda Payo Nidhi Vardhana Kirti Krishna Kirtana Jaya Plavana Murti Pade Pade Piyusha Swada Pradata Krishna Kirtana Jaya Prema Vidhata Bhakti Vinoda Swatma Snapana Vidhana Krishna Kirtana Jaya Prema Nidana Bhakti Vinoda Swatma Snapana Vidhana Krishna Kirtana Jaya Prema Nidana Pitavarana Kali Pavana Gaura Gao Yai Chana Bhava Vibhora Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Shri Geetavali ki jai, Shri Shikshashtakam ki jai, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, anybody would like to take up the service of reading the translation?
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, Sangeeta Mataji, please go ahead.
No, you explain is very better than me. You can explain better.
No, Mataji, please take up the service.
No.
Okay.
You take it.
Thank you, Mataji. Translation: Lord Garanga, whose complexion is golden and who is the deliverer of the fallen souls of Kali Yuga, sings as follows, overwhelmed with spiritual ecstasy. All glories to the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. It thoroughly cleanses the mirror of the heart. This chanting delights the soul. All glories to the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. It extinguishes the horrible forest fire of material existence. This chanting removes all material tribulations. All glories to the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. It appears like the moon in the heart and distributes its cooling moonlight, thus causing the white lotus of good fortune to bloom. This chanting is the pastime of devotion. All glories to the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. It is compared to a young bride, chaste and devoted to transcendental knowledge itself. This chanting is the highest perfection. All glories to the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. It is glorious as it causes the ocean of ecstatic bliss to swell and overflow. This chanting is an inundation of love of Godhead. All glories to the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. It gives one a taste of fully satisfying nectar at every step. This chanting is a bestower of ecstatic love of God. All glories to the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. It bathes the soul of Bhakti Vinoda. This chanting is a storehouse of love of God. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Would you like to share anything, Mataji, from this?
Yes, it basically says Ram se bada Ram ka naam. You know, all we have to do, and we have discussed this before as well. Like in Satyuga, there were people, asuras and devtas, they lived on different planets. So that's how, Hiranyaksha was able to abduct Earth. And then in Treta Yuga, they lived on the same planet, like Ram and Ravana. In Dwapar Yuga, they lived within the same family, like Pandavas and Kauravas. But in Kali Yuga, even though it is the demon and Devta, it's both within like one person, one body. They're residing within us only. It doesn't we have the biggest fight we have is within ourselves. But the best thing about Kali Yuga is that we have to do no yagya, no austerities, no 70,000 saal ka yagya, uh, or anything. All we have to do is chant the holy name of Krishna. So even though we might be the most fallen in the category of as yuga wise, but we are the most blessed ones. So he keeps insisting here that all glories to the chanting of holy name of Krishna. Let's keep chanting the holy name of Krishna. That is all we have to do, and that will वही हमें भवसागर से पार उतारेगा. So that's what I got from this, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. Yes, so beautiful. Yeah. So no matter where we may be and whatever. Yes, Naren Prabhu, go ahead.
No, nice. Continue. I will add.
Yeah, no, like as Mataji said, so yeah, it doesn't matter what we should. Actually, the more fallen we are, the more unfortunate we are, the more happy we should be, because the mercy flows to those people, to those souls, who consider themselves to be the most fallen, right, in this age. So yeah, no matter where we are in our journey, this is so hope giving that just by attaching ourselves, like I said, spiritual attachment is just attaching ourselves to the Lord through his holy name, because his name is more powerful than the Lord himself, and it's not different from the Lord. So yeah, just as yesterday we were reading, the sadhus, they are very tolerant, they are merciful. That is what they are doing, right? As Nityananda Prabhu, even though he was hit by Jagai and Madai, still he was so merciful towards them, right? Haridas Thakur was so merciful, even though he was caned in 22 marketplaces, he couldn't leave the holy name from his mouth, from his tongue, and he actually he prayed to the Lord that may these Yavanas, these beaters also get mercy of the Lord, right? So like that is the qualities of a sadhu, and they're only chanting themselves, and they are only distributing this chanting of the holy name to everybody. Yes. Okay, were you saying something, Naren Prabhu?
No problem. Like there are two things. Whenever somebody wants to come to the materialist nature to spiritual nature. So there are two important things. Always, bring them up. Like either by bhakti or first step is with gyan. Like the first gyan, like they should know. Like okay, whenever you go for bhakti, first faith should come on the God. Then we'll practice bhakti. But for the beginners, right? So we should know two things from the sloka. God said like 18.15 that this is misery world. So even though we'll try here make ourselves happy, we are not. Like for temporary, we generally get the happiness, but we don't get it for the long term. So, and the second part of that is, as here mentioned, right? There are 14 layers of planetary system, right? Like we know 7 lower one, like below earth, like Atalok, Vitalok, Sutalok, Talatal, Mahatal, Rasatal, Patal. So these are the 7 layers. If we don't do good work, then again we may go to this lower planetary system. But if we don't uh, elevate spiritually, right, then we cannot go to the Vaikuntha. But if we'll do good work, still we'll be in the top 7 layers, 6 layers, sorry, above the earth. Like what is that called? Bhuloka, Swargaloka, Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka, like Brahmaloka. So all these are material layers, material planets, right? Will still stay in the material world only, even though we will not get this physical body, but still will be in the material world. So there are two things they have to know after death where we are going. So if we'll do the bhakti, we'll come out of this 14 layer system and we'll go to Golok or Vaikuntha, right? But the devotee doesn't look for this teacher, but he does his bhakti by keeping the faith on the God. Like so that's what we should teach if somebody is not in the spiritual practice or bhakti practice. These two important things should be shared with them so that at least they should know. Then rest of the things is on them. Like that's what I want.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes. Very nice. And the easiest process to do bhakti is to just chant the holy names. The most, like Prabhupada said yesterday, the most simplest and the most sublime. So if somebody cannot do anything else, if people can serve, there are nine limbs of bhakti as Prahlad Maharaj has given us, the ideal. But in that also, first thing, as you said, first thing is hearing. They should understand this knowledge, and then chant the holy names, Kirtanam. Okay, so let's continue with our Shravanam and Kirtanam of this wonderful book called Teachings of Kapila-dev. We are continuing on chapter 11. Yesterday we saw the qualities and activities of a sadhu. So we'll continue from here. Prahlad Maharaj also has indicated this. Naishamatistha vadarukramangrim sprashatyanartha pagamo yadartah mahiyasam padarajobhishekam nishkinchananam navranitayavat. Unless they smear upon their bodies the dust of the lotus feet of a Vaishnava, completely freed from material contamination, persons very much inclined toward materialistic life cannot be attached to the lotus feet of the Lord, who is glorified for his uncommon activities. Only by becoming Krishna conscious and taking shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord in this way, one can be freed from material contamination. Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.32. Hiranyakashipu asked Prahlad Maharaj, "My dear son Prahlad, how have you become so advanced in Krishna consciousness?" Although Hiranyakashipu was a demon, he was nonetheless inquisitive. Prahlad Maharaj replied, "My dear father, O best of the asuras, one can receive Krishna consciousness only from the instructions of a guru. One cannot attain it simply by speculating. Ordinary men do not know that their ultimate destination is to return to Vishnu. In the material world, people are always hoping for something. They hope against hope, yet their hopes will never be fulfilled. People are trying to become happy by adjusting the external energy, but they do not know that happiness cannot be achieved without approaching God. People are thinking, I must first of all see to my own interest. That's all right, but what is this interest? That they do not know. People are thinking that by adjusting the material energy, they will be happy, and everyone is trying this individually, collectively, or nationally. In any case, it is not possible. People will ultimately be frustrated. Why attempt a process that will ultimately meet with frustration? It is therefore said, Adanta Gobhir Vishatam Tamishram Punaha Punash Charvita Chavananam. Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.30. People are being baffled in so many ways because they cannot control their senses. Their only possibility of rescue is Krishna. Therefore, in this verse it is said, Mai Ananyena Bhavena Bhaktim Kurvanti Yedadham. Prahlad Maharaj simply thought of Krishna. Because of this, he had to undergo a great deal of trouble given by his father. Material nature will not give us freedom very easily. If we become strong enough to try to capture the lotus feet of Krishna, Maya will try to keep us under her clutches. However, if one gives up everything for Krishna's sake, Maya can have no effect. The most excellent example of this is the gopis. They gave up everything, family, prestige, honor, just to follow Krishna. That is the highest perfection. But that is not possible for ordinary living entities. We should, however, follow the Goswamis in their determination to worship Krishna. Sanatan Goswami was an important minister in the government of Hussain Shah, but he gave up everything to follow Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He adopted the life of a mendicant and lived under a different tree every night. One may ask, after giving up material enjoyment, how can one live? The Goswamis lived by dipping into the ocean of the transcendental loving affairs between Krishna and the gopis. Since that was their asset, they could live very peacefully. We cannot simply give up everything. We will become mad if we try to give up everything without having staunch faith in Krishna. Yet, if we find Krishna's association, we can easily give up our opulent positions, our family, business, and everything. However, that requires sadhu sangha, association with a sadhu, a devotee. When we associate with a devotee, the day will eventually come, when we can give up everything and become liberated persons, fit to return back to Godhead. Presently, we are attached to material enjoyment, and Krishna even gives us a chance to gratify our senses. He lets us enjoy ourselves to the fullest extent, because we have come to this material world to enjoy sense gratification. However, this is called Maya or illusion. It is not really enjoyment, but simply struggle. When one realizes that he is simply struggling life after life, that there is actually no real enjoyment in the material world, one becomes a devotee of Krishna. That realization requires knowledge, and that knowledge can be acquired by association with a sadhu, a devotee. Freedom from this struggle with material existence is further explained by Lord Kapila in the next verse, text 23. Mad ashraya katha mrishtaha shrinvanti kathayanti cha tapanti vividhastapa naitan madgata chetasaha. Engaged constantly in chanting and hearing about me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the sadhus do not suffer from material miseries because they are always filled with the thoughts of my pastimes and activities. There are multifarious miseries in material existence, those pertaining to the body and the mind, those imposed by other living entities, and those imposed by natural disturbances. But a sadhu is not disturbed by such miserable conditions because his mind is always filled with Krishna consciousness, and thus he does not like to talk about anything but the activities of the Lord. Maharaj Ambrish did not speak of anything but the pastimes of the Lord. Vachamsi Vaikunta Gunanu Varnane. He engaged his words only in glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ordinary conditioned souls, being forgetful of the activities of the Lord, are always full of anxieties and material tribulations. On the other hand, since the devotees always engage in the topics of the Lord, they are forgetful of the miseries of the material existence. Thus, they differ from other living entities who are simply suffering. There is no one in the world materially engaged who can boldly say, I am not suffering. I challenge anyone to say this. Everyone in the material world is suffering in some way or another. If not, why are so many drugs being advertised? On the television, they are always advertising tranquilizers and painkillers. And in America and other Western countries, they are so advanced that there are dozens of tablets for various pains. Therefore, there must be some suffering. Actually, anyone who has a material body has to accept suffering. There are three types of suffering in the material world: Adhyatmika, Adibhautika, and Adidaivika. Adhyatmika refers to the body and mind. Today I have a headache or some pain in my back, or my mind is not very quiet. These are sufferings called Adhyatmika. There are other forms of suffering called Adibhautika, which are sufferings imposed by other living entities. Apart from this, there are sufferings called Adidaivika, over which we have no control whatsoever. These are caused by the demigods or acts of nature and include famine, pestilence, flood, excessive heat or cold, earthquakes, fire, and so on. Nonetheless, we are thinking that we are very happy within this material world, although in addition to these threefold miseries, there is also birth, old age, disease, and death. So where is our happiness? Because we are under the spell of Maya, we are thinking that our position is very secure. We are thinking, let us enjoy life. But what kind of enjoyment is this? Obviously, we have to tolerate suffering. One of the characteristics of a sadhu is tolerance. Everyone is tolerant to a degree, but a sadhu's tolerance and an ordinary man's tolerance are different. This is because a sadhu knows that he is not the body. According to a Bengali Vaishnava song, Deha Smriti Nahi Yara Samsara Bandhana Kaha Tara. If we properly understand that we are not the body, although we may suffer, we will not feel the suffering as acutely. For instance, if one thinks this is my car and is very attached to it, he suffers more when it is wrecked than a person who thinks it can be repaired or I can leave it. It is a question of mental absorption. Because he is more like an animal, a materialist suffers more. The devotee, on the other hand, takes Krishna's advice in the Bhagavad Gita 2.14. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkhada agama paino nityas tamstitikshava bharata. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O scion of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. In summer we suffer, and in winter we suffer. In the summer, fire brings suffering, and in the winter the same fire is pleasing. Similarly, in the winter water is suffering, but in the summer it is pleasing. The water and the fire are the same, but sometimes they are pleasing and sometimes they are not. This is due to the touch of the skin. We all have some skin disease, which is the body, and therefore we are suffering. Because we have become such rascals, we are thinking, I am this body. According to the Ayurvedic system, the body is composed of three material elements: Kapha, Pitta, and Vayu. The more we are in the bodily conception, the more we suffer. Presently, so many isms are being developed according to the bodily conception: nationalism, communism, socialism, communalism, and so on. In Calcutta, during the 1947 Hindu-Muslim riots, there was more suffering because everyone was thinking, I am a Hindu, I am a Muslim. But if one is advanced in Krishna consciousness, he will not fight according to such conceptions. A Krishna conscious person knows that he is neither Hindu nor Muslim, but the eternal servant of Krishna. Because people are being educated to become more body conscious, their sufferings are increasing. If we reduce the bodily conception, suffering will also be reduced. Those who are Krishna conscious, who are always thinking of Krishna within their minds and within their hearts, are not suffering as much because they know that whatever they might suffer is due to Krishna's desire. Therefore, they welcome suffering. For instance, when Krishna was leaving, Queen Kunti said, My dear Krishna, when we are in a dangerous situation, you were always present as our friend and advisor. Now we are well situated with our kingdom, and now you are leaving for Dwarka. This is not good. It is better that we again suffer so that we can always remember you. Thus, the devotee sometimes welcomes suffering as an opportunity to remember Krishna constantly. When a devotee suffers, he thinks, this is due to my past misdeeds. Actually, I should be suffering a great deal, but due to Krishna's grace, I am suffering just a little. After all, suffering and enjoyment are in the mind. In this way, a devotee is not greatly affected by suffering, and this is the difference between a devotee and a non-devotee. Prahlad Maharaj, a 5-year-old boy, had to undergo a great deal of suffering at the hands of his father, who was torturing him for being a devotee. The boy was trampled by elephants, thrown from a mountain, placed in a burning oil, and thrown into a snake pit. Yet he was silent during this whole ordeal. Similarly, Haridas Thakur, a Mohammedan by birth, was a very great devotee and was always chanting Hare Krishna. That was his only fault. However, the Muslim Qazi called him forth and said, "You are a Mohammedan, born in a great Mohammedan family. Yet you are chanting this Hindu Hare Krishna mantra? What is this?" Haridas Thakur mildly replied, "My dear sir, there are many Hindus who have become Mohammedans. Suppose I have become a Hindu. What is wrong with this?" The Qazi became very angry and ordered Haridas Thakur to be whipped in 22 bazaars. This essentially meant that he was beaten to death. But because he was such a great devotee, he did not actually feel the pain. Although a devotee may sometimes have to suffer, he tolerates the suffering. At the same time, he is very kind to conditioned souls and tries to elevate them to Krishna consciousness. This is one of the primary features of a devotee's life. People are always putting a sadhu into difficulties, but he does not give up his job, which is to spread Krishna consciousness so that others may become happy. It was Prahlad Maharaj who said, "My Lord, I am not suffering, for I know the art of being happy. How is this? Simply by hearing about you and chanting about you, I am happy." This is the business of a devotee, hearing and chanting about the Lord. This is Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnuho Swaranam. Now this Shravanam Kirtanam is taking place all over the world through the Krishna consciousness movement. Hare Krishna. Okay. Let's pause here. Yes, so Shravanam Kirtanam. We started with that and Prabhupada is ending today with that. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam. Yeah, these are the, like we said yesterday also, the three very, very important foundational pillars. And we of course go in that order, not that we directly go to Smaranam. Right? We first have to do Shravanam, which is hearing about the glories, hearing about the pastimes of the Lord and His pure devotees. That is all Shravanam. Reading Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, reading these books of Srila Prabhupada. Right? So this is all Shravanam. And Kirtanam is of course chanting the glories of the holy name. And then comes Vishnu Smaranam, remembrance. So yeah, I was actually yesterday or last week only, Guru Maharaj, when we were reading, one of his quotes, came across this verse. Let me share. I have it open here, right here, and there. Guru Maharaj is referring exactly this point about from Srimad Bhagavatam. This verse is talking about this point that we just talked about. Tasmat sarvatmana rajan harihi sarvatra sarvada shrotavya kititavyascha smartavyo bhagavan nrinam. So tasmat, therefore, sarvatmana rajan, all the souls, O king, harihi, the Lord, sarvatra is everywhere and sarvada is always. So the Lord has to be glorified. He must be heard about. Shrotavya, shrunvata, as we say, shravanam is through the ears. Kirtitavya is using our words, using our tongue in the glorification of the Lord. And smartavya is remembering the Lord. Bhagavan, Nrinam is the human being. So these are the three things that we should do. This will bring us perfection of life. So Prabhupada says in translation, "O king, it is therefore essential that every human being hear about, glorify and remember the Supreme Lord, the Personality of Godhead, always and everywhere." This purport is also very nice. We should read this, a small purport. Sri Shukadeva Goswami begins this verse with the word tasmat, or therefore, because in the previous verse he has already explained that there is no auspicious means for salvation other than the sublime process of Bhakti Yoga. The Bhakti Yoga process is practiced by the devotees in different methods like hearing, chanting, remembering, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, worshipping, praying, rendering service in love, becoming friendly, and offering all that one may possess. All the 9 methods are bona fide methods, and either all of them or some of them or even one of them can bring about the desired result for the sincere devotee. But out of all the 9 different methods, the first one, namely hearing, is the most important function in the process of Bhakti Yoga. Without hearing sufficiently and properly, no one can make any progress by any of the methods of practice. And for hearing only, all the Vedic literatures are there, compiled by authorized persons like Vyasadeva, who is the powerful incarnation of Godhead. And since it has been ascertained that the Lord is the super soul of everything, he should therefore be heard and glorified everywhere and always. That is the special duty of the human being. When the human being gives up the process of hearing about the all-pervading personality of Godhead, he becomes victim to hearing rubbish transmitted by man-made machines. Machinery is not bad because through machine one can take advantage of hearing about the Lord. But because machinery is used for ulterior purposes, it is creating rapid degradation in the standard of human civilization. It is said, therefore, here that it is incumbent upon the human beings to hear, because the scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam are made for that purpose. Living beings other than human beings have no ability to hear such Vedic literatures. If human society gives itself to the process of hearing the Vedic literature, it will not become a victim to the impious sounds vibrated by impious men who degrade the standards of the total society. Hearing is solidified by the process of chanting. One who has perfectly heard from the perfect source becomes convinced about the all-pervading personality of Godhead and thus becomes enthusiastic and glorifying the Lord. All the great acharyas like Ramanuja, Madhva, Chaitanya and Saraswati Thakur, or even in other countries, Muhammad, Christ and others have all extensively glorified the Lord by chanting always and in every place. Because the Lord is all-pervading, it is essential to glorify Him always and everywhere. In the process of glorifying the Lord, there should be no restriction of time and space. This is called Sanatan Dharma or Bhagavad Dharma. Sanatan means eternal, always and everywhere. Bhagavata means pertaining to Bhagavan, the Lord. The Lord is the master of all time and all space, and therefore the Lord's holy name must be heard, glorified, and remembered everywhere in the world. That will bring about the desired peace and prosperity, so eagerly awaited by the people of the world. The word cha includes all the remaining processes or methods of Bhakti Yoga, as mentioned above. So yes, again, this is a very, very beautiful verse, and talking about the glories of Bhakti Yoga, the processes of Bhakti, the limbs of Bhakti. Shravanam, Kirtanam and Vishnu Smaranam. And as Prabhupada said, first of all, the most important thing is having Shraddha. And only when you have Shraddha, then we will be able to hear attentively, carefully, when pure devotee speaks, like when Prabhupada is speaking through his books, when we have sannyasis coming at our center, Vaishnavas, senior Vaishnavas coming and speaking, we should hear attentively. So that is the first process. And that is solidified when we chant. So they go in hand, right? So when we do nice chanting, when we chant our japa nicely, it enables us to hear nicely. So it's like a recursive loop. And without these two, Shravanam, Kirtanam, we cannot get to the level of Smaranam, which is remembrance of the Lord. Because, like that's why we say that this 2 hours that we do japa in the morning, the quality of this depends on what our consciousness is in the other 22 hours of the day. But without doing this 2 hours nicely, our consciousness for the next 22 hours cannot be nice. So it's a very tight coupled process. And so we have to focus nicely on our chanting, on our sadhana, hearing and chanting nicely. Then we will get to the part of remembrance. So today being Wednesday, again, we will continue with our remembrance. Last week we were remembering the Lord with the syllable Om, and reciting the Vedic mantras as Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, or Om Apavitra Pavitrova, right? So there are many Vedic mantras we discussed. So when we hear Om, we think of Om, or we chant Om, we can just close our eyes and remember the beautiful face of the Lord. So we can remember the Lord and we can chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, or we can just say Hare Krishna. So that today we'll continue this week 4, we'll continue with the next part of that verse, which is Shabda K. Shabda K means that I am the sound in ether. So I'd like to know from everybody on the call, how can we remember the Lord when we hear sound in ether? What does that mean to you when you think of sound? And how can we remember Krishna when we hear sound? Anybody would like to share anything? Is my sound coming? Anybody would like to say anything?
All good, Prabhu, today.
No. How will you remember the Lord when you hear sound? Is my question.
Oh.
So we were doing, we were remembering the Lord, right, as taste of water, as the light of sun and the light of moon, and as the syllable Om. So now this week, 4th week, we will try to remember the Lord. He says that Shabda Ke, I am the sound in ether. So I'm just asking, how can we remember the Lord? Yes,
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. For me, there is a lot of noise, sound in my house. So when you say, how will we remember the sound? So the first thing came in my mind is whenever my kids are fighting, I'll remember Lord. I'll start chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra and let them fight.
Very good.
Because they are fighting whole day, so there will be many chances for me to remember Lord again and again.
The beautiful voice of the kids is the energy of the Lord, right? Because they're so innocent and so that, yeah, so whatever they are saying is actually the Lord speaking through them. But yes, that's a nice way to remember the Lord. You can chant Hare Krishna mantra just to help them be peaceful. Thank you for sharing. Very nice. Anybody else would like to say anything?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I was the spring is here. We hear a lot of birds chirping in the morning and in the evening. Yesterday only I was discussing with Vidhi. We were hearing the bird sounds, two birds talking together, and that was very pleasing. So I was thinking maybe the sounds of nature. Uh, we have connected water with the remembrance. So when we pour water in a glass, there is a sound. There is sound from the birds, the sounds from the nature. So that can be one remembrance. And then silence. I've heard Krishna also says he's the silence. When there is no sound, there is also the sound in the ether. So whenever we are alone and there is silence, we can connect to Krishna that time.
Yes, very nice. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, this morning also, as soon as we are starting chanting, we can hear in the background, birds are chirping. I was remembering this morning, especially the birds are chirping very, very, pleasingly. And I was remembering today we are going to talk about the sound and the birds are chirping outside. So yeah, that's a very nice way. And yeah, like you said, water, when we are near a water body like a lake or a stream or a river, we can hear the sound of water gushing through. That's one way to remember. When we are walking outside, there is wind blowing sometimes, and wind is shaking the trees or leaves, and you hear that sound. So all those sounds in the nature, yeah, those are very nice ways to remember the Lord and his energy. This is Lord helping us remember him through these sounds in the nature. And of course, the most important and the most transcendental is the sound vibration of Hare Krishna Mahamantra itself. So when we are chanting, so at least let's make an attempt. Even one Hare Krishna Mahamantra, either during the morning japa or in the day when we are chanting Hare Krishna, like Aarti Mataji was saying, when you're remembering Krishna through chanting Hare Krishna mantra when your kids are fighting, in that one Hare Krishna Mahamantra, you can pour full your attention and fill your heart and ears, in the sound, and remember the Lord. So that will be a nice way to remember. So yeah, let's see. We'll hear reflections as we go along. But yeah, this is very nice to remember the Lord through these sounds and also through silence, as Meenakshi Mani said. So let that be our activity for this week. Okay, thank you so much. We'll hear from others hopefully later in the week. वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. अनंतकोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय.
जय.
श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय.
जय.
श्रील कपिल देव की जय. निताई
जय.
गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि
Hari
बोल.
Hari
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 Bol.
Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.